Hello everybody, my name is Dr. Mary Procopio and I am your instructor for this section of music appreciation. This introductory video is actually going to cover everything for all of my sections of music appreciation. So some of you will be online and some of you will be face-to-face, but the information is basically the same. For the 15-week and the WWW, those syllabi will be the same. The students in the 12-week late start, and if there is an 8-week course, are going to have a little bit different syllabi. But the information is the same that's included. So I teach this class. I teach World Music Appreciation, which is a really fantastic class about music from other cultures, like African music, Caribbean music, and music from all over the world. And then I also direct the band and conduct some of the chamber ensembles here at Mott. So if any of you play a musical instrument, you don't have to be a music major to be in band or sing in choir or play in a chamber ensemble. Feel free to contact me and let me know, and I can hook you up with the right director to get in touch with. This particular class, Music Appreciation, is actually about Western European music. This is what we talk about. We'll touch on some other types of music from time to time, but the main focus of this class is music that you would hear a band play, or an orchestra play, or a choir sing. And basically all the music instructors who teach this class start out the same way, even though we use different resources as far as texts or online educational resources. Basically we start out teaching what we call the elements of music. So music that the terms related to the various types of music we'll talk to. So you've heard of the terms melody, harmony, texture, rhythm. And then there are other terms associated with those as well. So we just cover those for the first couple of weeks to make sure everybody feels pretty comfortable with the terminology. And then we get into the various instruments of the band and orchestra. Some of you may be familiar with those if you've played in band or orchestra in high school or at church or through other venues. And some of you may have no experience, and that's okay. One of the main things I want to say is you don't have to have any previous experience with music or performing music to do well in this course. All you need to do is make sure that you read the information provided on Canvas, listen to the links. If it's a face-to-face class, come to class, and then you will have everything you need to know to be able to do very well in this class. After we talk about the instruments of the band and orchestra, then we get into the various periods of music. Everyone refers to music that the band and orchestra plays as, quote, classical music, but there actually is a period in music history that was referred to as the classical period. So if you've heard of composers like Mozart or Beethoven, two of the most famous composers who ever lived, they are from that period called classical period. But basically what we'll start with is music of the medieval and then the Renaissance periods. So if you've ever gone to the Renaissance Festival, some of this music will sound familiar to you. Really fun, a lot of dance music, a lot of very serious church music as well. You're not going to like all the music we cover this semester, and that's okay. I just ask that you keep an open mind. I think you'll find a lot of music that we'll listen to you actually will really enjoy. After medieval and Renaissance, we get to the Baroque period. So J.S. Bach, Johann Sebastian Bach, is one of the most famous, if not the most famous composer from that period. He had 20 kids, and some of them grew up to be famous composers as well. So we talk about Baroque music, and that's when the orchestra started. It's much smaller than we know it today, but it's consisted of mostly strings, harpsichord, which is the predecessor of the piano, and a few winds and brass, and timpani, which were referred to as kettle drums back then. Then we talk about the classical period, the romantic period, which is my favorite period of music because it's very full and lush and very emotional. It doesn't mean that it's all about romance. There were some romantic songs written during that period that had to do with feelings and things like that, but basically the romantic period is really amazing music that's very powerful and very emotional on a lot of respects. Beethoven went into the romantic period a little bit. He's known more as a classical composer, but he did transition us into the romantic period with a lot of the characteristics, so he was great inspiration to a lot of the composers who came after him and became famous during the Romantic period. And then at the end of the semester, we end on the 20th century, where we touch on some of the music, 20th and maybe 21st century if we have time. And in the 20th century, composers didn't really care if you like the music they were writing. A lot of their music was written to experiment and to try new things, introduce new sounds. So you will hear a lot of very different types of music during that period. So that's a quick overview of the course itself. What I'd like to do is walk you through Canvas. Most of you may have used Canvas before. Hopefully all of you have at least taken the intro course on how to use Canvas and have a little familiarity with it. But it's actually pretty simple, a fantastic resource, and I've set it up in a way that I think will be very easy for you to access and easy for you to understand. So I'm just going to click the student view on my Canvas shell before I turn my camera around. View, when I go into Canvas, looks a little bit different than your view. So when I go into Canvas, there's going to be more things in the modules when we get there as far as your quizzes and everything, which you won't be able to see at this time once we get to them during the semester and the various weeks that they come up. Then I'll open them up and you'll be able to see them. So this is the first page you will see under Music 180. This one is for the face-to-face class. The online 15-week class is going to look pretty much exactly like this as well. This just welcomes you to the class, gives you a little bit of information. There are links here to the introductory video that you're listening to at the moment, although these here are older links, so I'm currently going to update these links with the video I'm making at this moment as we speak. And then here is something that I added this semester that I think you will find very helpful. This is the orientation module. So if you click on that link, that will take you to the module section, and the first one you will see has a lot of really helpful information that we'll get to in a minute. If you look over here on the right of the screen, I've hidden a lot of the pages so that you wouldn't have to worry about them, because you don't have to go to a quiz page or an assignment page or any of that in order to be able to get information. Everything you need is going to be under the module section when you get there. So it makes it very simple and very easy. The announcements, if you click on announcements every once in a while, if there's something really important I need to get to you, I'll put it under the announcements section or send the class an email. And so this one here is important, please read. It has a couple of important announcements. If you are in a face-to-face class, the most important thing you need to know is the campus is requiring masks, and I'm going to be a stickler about that for your safety, for my safety, and the safety of everyone else in the class. So you have to wear a mask at all times, and you have to wear a mask correctly, covering your mouth and nose throughout the pandemic. And then also there's a calendar at the end of your syllabus, so this is referencing, you really need to be familiar with this because your syllabus has everything you need to know about the class. It's going to be harder for you to see, I know, because of the camera being far away here, but what I'll do is I'll kind of make it a little larger so you can see this better. So the first thing in your module, under the module tab, which again is where you go to find out and find all of your assignments, everything you need to submit, all of your homework, your exams, your quizzes are all going to be under this link for the corresponding week. So orientation, introduction information, this just explains what this module is. And then you could either go back to where it says module, or you could just click the next button. If you click the next button, that'll just take you right to the next thing in that module. This is a really great article for planning for success in remote, hybrid, and online classes. This is something we received last year during the pandemic, and I just copied it and pasted it here so that you would be able to have that information. Let me see if there's another next button. Yep. This is the syllabus, and again, your syllabus has everything that you need to know for this semester. Your syllabus is located here. It is also located under the syllabus icon. I was going to hide that, but I thought I would just leave it in case you needed to get to it really quickly from the very front page of your Canvas shell. But this has everything that you need to know to be successful in the class. So office hours, I'm going to try and use 11 to 12 online and in my office. So I'll be on campus on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So from 11 to 12, I'll be in my office. If you're an online class student, you want to shoot me a message during that time frame. I should be able to get back to you. The exception would be if I was meeting with a student at that time or answering other emails, then you may hear from me later in the day. But Tuesdays, Thursdays from 11 to noon, I'm going to treat as office hours. Let's say 11 to 11:55, because I need to get down to my class that starts at noon. And you can read through all of this. I just want to touch on a couple of things. There's the other welcome again. I just added it in your syllabus. Computer requirements. If you are on a face-to-face class, you should be prepared to go online at any time if the college requires it due to the pandemic worsening. And in which case we would probably do synchronous Zoom online classes during your same class time. Online classes, of course, you have to have access to a computer because you have everything online. So this is just some recommendations from the IT department as far as what will work very well with what we have here on campus. If you don't have a computer, if you're in need of a Chromebook, Mott does have some Chromebooks they were signing out to students, so you can contact the IT department at 810-762-HELP and they can help you with that. Syllabus, again, just some information there, some information about corresponding and communications. One very important thing I want to mention is that you should correspond with me via your Gmail email. Do not send messages through Canvas because sometimes I do not get them in my inbox and then they sit there and you're wondering why I haven't responded, and it's because I haven't gotten your message. So you need to send any emails, questions, anything like that through your MCC email Gmail, not through Canvas. And also, if you use a personal email account, you need to forward your MCC email account to your personal account, or you need to check your MCC email every day. Because when I send out class emails, I send it to the class, Music 180. I don't send it to individual names, which means you are not going to get the information you need if you are not forwarding your MCC email to your, or your personal email, your MCC email to your personal email. And again, you're probably getting a lot of information from the college as well. So if you're not checking that MCC email account, you're going to be missing out on some important things. There's some more information about office hours, attendance. For face-to-face classes, attendance is taken in class, obviously, with you being there. For online classes, attendance is going to be taken from your assignments that you turn in each week. So attendance looks a little bit different on the online syllabus as opposed to the face-to-face syllabus. This is some information that you'll see in all your syllabi about Title IX, practicing civility, the care team, some of the accommodations policies. So if you have an issue where you can't wear a mask for a health reason, for example, you're going to want to contact Disability Services, the accommodations area, and find out what you can do, because you cannot come onto campus or be in a class without wearing the mask. You'd have to switch into an online section at that point. This is the Title IX information. Title IV. There's no textbook for this class. I realize that textbooks are extremely expensive, especially if you're taking a class that's not in your major. And I used to use an online music text, but then you couldn't sell it back at the end of the semester. So I use totally online resources. I provide you with notes. I provide you with links, articles, and a lot of recordings, links to recordings. So you do not need a textbook for this class. If you're on Facebook, I have a Facebook page for the class, Music Appreciation Procopio. I share a lot of things that I find on Facebook, a lot of different recordings that pop up that I think you might enjoy. Some fun stuff, some, sometimes non-classical type music that I think you might like, and then some other things that pop up related to what we might be discussing in class. These are all your objectives for the course. So basically, we want to be able to cover the basic elements of music, like I mentioned, being able to recognize the different instruments that you hear in the various ensembles, being able to recognize some of the different forms of music. And some of this might sound a little bit intimidating right now, but I can tell you that it's actually, I try to make it as interesting and as easy and simple as possible to learn. So don't be too worried about this if you don't have any musical background. If you do have musical background, then I think you'll find it to be not as difficult, because you might be familiar with some of the pieces we're talking about. Then, as I mentioned, we'll be talking about the different pieces and periods of music. So one of the goals is to try to get you to be able to identify and recognize music from a particular period, which again isn't as difficult as it might seem, even if you don't know much about music, because they have very distinctive sounds and characteristics, the music from these periods, which you'll find, and we might get to listen to a little bit here if we have time. Then some other goals, you can read through those. For me, no matter what class I teach, I think it's really important to connect the music with some social and political issues that were taking place during the time, because you can't really talk about music without talking about some of those things. For example, during Beethoven's time period, the French Revolution took place, and that had a major impact on him and his music, because he had dedicated a piece to Napoleon, who he thought the world of, until Napoleon made himself emperor for life, and then Beethoven totally changed his feelings about him, which affected his music and a piece that he wrote in honor of him. Assignment expectations, again, you can read through all of this. Basically, just make sure you do your assignments, get them in on time. Don't wait until the last minute to submit things on Canvas. You have basically the entire week. Everything's due on Friday. That way I have the weekend to grade it. So don't wait until Friday at 8 o'clock to try to turn something in that's due at midnight. You might have connectivity issues. You may be having to work. The internet may be down. Try to do your assignments and get them in as soon as you can, because if you submit them sooner and I can grade them sooner, I will do that. You could read through the academic integrity policy on your own. Basically says do not cheat. Evaluation. Listening logs and written assignments, writing assignments. We do a lot of short writing in the class, a lot of listening and writing. So basically, I just ask you to have a place in your notebook where you can take notes on the different pieces we're listening to. And that way, if you have any questions, it's easy to find if you have it in that one section of your notebook. And then when we're talking about some of the characteristics in the face-to-face classes, or when you're reading the notes in the online classes, you can actually write some of those characteristics to go along with the pieces that you're listening to. It's just easier to keep it all in one place. Film response, reflections. There's a couple of papers that you'll write that are film responses to two films we'll see, one about Mozart, one about Beethoven. Two fantastic films, very different from each other. For the face-to-face classes, you'll see those in class. For the online classes, there's information on how you can access those films. Music review is one of your major assignments this semester. It happens towards the end of the semester, and it's 20% of your grade. It's actually an opinion paper, so you're going to be listening to a performance of a really cool, very interesting piece, and then you're going to write about that piece. And it actually has a program. It's an example of program music for the Romantic period, which means that it's music that tells a story. And this particular piece is called Symphonie Fantastique by a French composer named Berlioz. And it's a really, really cool piece that I think you'll enjoy. If you've ever seen the movie Sleeping with the Enemy with Julia Roberts, it's an older film, but a really good film. Whenever the guy is coming after his ex-wife, they play music from the last movement of Berlioz's Symphonie Fantastique. So the music is has been adapted and used in other situations as well. There's some different extra credit examples, extra credit opportunities, I should say, that you'll be able to do. Some of your quizzes have extra credit examples on them. You can only get 100 points total as far as extra credit goes on a quiz. So if you get everything right and then you get the extra credit, you don't get you don't get over 100%. But you can do some extra credit assignments that will be added on to your grade at the end of the year, at the end of the semester. It's not on a point system per se. It can just bump up your grade a half a point, like let's say from a 3.5 to a 4.0, or from a 2.0 to a 2.5. But it's not worth like 10 points, 20 points, anything like that. It just depends on how well you do on the extra credit. You have two non-cumulative examinations. So one's going to happen mid-October, the other one mid-December. And those consist of vocab, so you'll have to match vocab to the definitions. It consists of short essay, so you'll have to write an essay, again, complete sentences related to comparing and contrasting typically two different periods of music. and also writing about some music examples that we've talked about. And then also there's a listening portion, which sometimes people get worried about that, but actually I don't try to pick examples that are really difficult. The idea isn't to trick you. The idea is just to get you thinking and listening and trying to pick out where the pieces are from as far as the periods go. You'll have a word bank in front of you for the listening, so you're not going to have to memorize the examples, and we will have talked about it enough in class or, online with the notes and everything, and you'll have the listening examples to study from that will be on the exams. So really, it's not that bad. Grading, there's your breakdown. You have 2 exams at 25%, which is 50% of your grade. The music review is 20%. Film responses, 2 of them are averaged together for 10% of your grade. 5 quizzes, I dropped the lowest quiz, are averaged together for 10%, and then your homework takes up that last 10% of your grade. The grading scale is there for you to look at. Notes regarding grades. Midterm grades and final grades are entered through Backpack. Everything else I try to submit on Canvas, so you should be able to see that. Sometimes when you go to submit something, it doesn't say a number of points. I'm not sure. That might be because I use a percentage instead of point system. But then when I enter your grade, you'll be able to see the grade once the homework's been corrected. So this is just a section in your syllabus if you wanted to put the grades in there and keep track of it and take it off Canvas that way. Withdrawal policy, towards the end of the semester, you can withdraw. Don't just stop going to any of your classes, because if you do stop going, then we have to either enter a failing grade, depending on how long you've been attending class, if you're not doing well, or an NS grade, which actually either one of those can affect your financial aid. So make sure that if you are going to drop a class for any reason, that you do withdraw yourself, because faculty cannot withdraw students. Incomplete grades, same idea. Incomplete grades are only given on a basis in case of emergencies, and they're only given if a student has completed the majority of the coursework and the course load. So try to keep up with your studies. If you have a problem at any point in the semester, reach out to me or any of your faculty if there's another class where you're having an issue with. Don't just kind of drop off our radar, because we can't help you if you do that. This classroom policies is only for the face-to-face classes, so obviously online classes, you're not in the classroom, so you don't have to worry about this part. Masks, again, the most important thing. Cell phones, I don't allow cell phones out during my class. If you don't want to be in class and you're going to be on your cell phone, then you should do that someplace else, because in class I want you to be engaged and paying attention to me and your fellow students who are going to hopefully be talking as far as small groups, large groups, discussions. So if you're on your cell phone, it's distracting to other students, it's distracting to myself. The only exception would be is there are times when I try to have some of these group projects that we do in class or group discussions where you can use your cell phone. You could read through the rest of that. Being respectful is one of the major things I just tell people in class. Like I said, you're not going to like all the music you hear, but some of that music might be meaningful to somebody. So just refrain from, profanity, derogatory remarks. I do like debating things and getting into interesting discussions about the music. And it's okay to disagree, but be respectful and courteous. The 6-foot distance for safety, we're going to try our best to maintain that. And do your best to be on time. It's very distracting when people come into class late, because we have those doors that lock automatically. So do your best to try and get to class on time. And if there is a back door, if you can come in the back door, it's less distracting if you are going to be late. Here's a section with important dates for the fall, so not necessarily related just to my class, but for the college itself. And then a section with additional resources, which you might find very helpful. And then this is your class calendar. This appears in a separate place in the orientation module as well, by itself, but this is also located at the end of your syllabus, and it has everything that we are going to do throughout the entire semester. Of course, it's tentative, subject to change if something comes up, but I've found that it's pretty easy to stick to this, especially now that everything's online. Even for the face-to-face classes, you'll be able to access this information if you miss class. So you should do the readings of what's included on your module. Look through the notes, do the readings before the class happens. Of course, that won't happen on the very first class because you won't have all of the information, or you may not get a chance to look at it. But for example, if we're going to talk about harmony and texture in week 2, then if you're in a face-to-face class, try to read that information in your module before you come to class. If you're in an online class, try to read it as soon as you can early in the week so that you'll have time to study and be able to get your assignments in and so forth. So this is laid out by the weeks in your syllabus, and it's also laid out by the weeks in your module. So I'm just going to kind of flip through here so that you can see that. There's an article in here on how to email your professor. So please, if you email me, dear professor, dear Dr. P, dear Dr. Procopio, and then when you sign off with your name. No, hey, don't use shorthand text. Teachers don't want to see that. Be professional when you send emails to your professors and address them by their title or by their last name. This is the COVID-19 mock classroom statement. It's been revised a little bit for 2021. So again, you can read through this. It's very important to know. You're going to have to do the health check, and you should do the health check on your phone every day before coming to campus if you're coming to campus. And that way you won't be stuck in a line as you're trying to get through to enter into the building. And you should be receiving more information on that from the college itself. Again, here's the class calendar. I'm going to go back to the module so that you could just see what this all looks like. So we just look through the syllabus, your class calendar and schedule. That's what's at the end of the syllabus, but I made a separate link just so you can access it. Sorry, got to move the phone over. Here's a link to a discussion. I've never used discussions before. This will be the first semester I do it. We'll see how it goes. But this is introduction, so to be able to meet people in your class. This is especially important for the online sections because you won't be able to meet people face-to-face. So this will give you a chance to be able to learn a little bit more about the other people in the class, maybe make some new friends, make some study partners, be able to get some more information about other people. And I put a little information here as far as I go. So I'm asking you to do that the first week of class. Ask a question. I put a section in here if you want to ask a question. I'm going to do my best to come in and check this as often as possible. But again, if you have a very pressing or important question that you need to get answered right away, then email me separately. But if you post it in there, then maybe another student might be able to answer your question as well. So that might be helpful. This fact sheet is very important. And again, before you email with questions, you should read through your syllabus and then look at this fact sheet, because this has a lot of important questions or issues that have come up in the past year that I found, and I just tried to compile it in this one document for everybody. So it has information on grades, points, quizzes, assignments, how to turn in assignments, a textbook loan program if you have need of that for some of your other classes, tutorial and writing center information. So you can look under that for that information. And then the last link in here for the orientation is some more resources. So I think this is a lot of the same information that's in your syllabus, but it gives you some links that you should be able to click right on and be able to go to. Okay, this video is getting a little long, so I'm just going to go through this a little bit quickly here. So here you have week 1, the elements of music. Again, these weeks correspond with the weeks in your syllabus. When we get to week 1, when we get to this week and we've gone through and talked about some of this, or if you're in an online class, I will then open up the quiz. So right now, like I said, you're looking at student view. If I change this and leave student view, you'll see now there's other things under week 1. So there's going to be a study guide that you can see now. There's going to be a key to the study guide that I'll open up later, especially for the online people who won't be in class, who won't be able to get the answers in class. And then there'll be a quiz that'll be opened up. So like I said, you won't be able to see the quizzes and some of the information here on your view until we get to those weeks. So don't freak out and wonder where they are and what's happening. Week 2, there's going to be your second quiz will be week 2 after we go through the study guide for the elements. Week 3, we'll talk about instruments of the band and orchestra. You'll have your third quiz. Week 4 is when we get into the information that's related to your first exam. So your first exam is going to cover medieval, Renaissance, and then the Baroque period. And then you'll have your exam and review on week 6. Again, if you're taking a 12-week class or a shorter class, like an 8-week class, which I'm not teaching this semester, but I may be in subsequent semesters, then these weeks will be a little bit different in your module. After that, you'll get a new study guide. You get a study guide to prepare you for each exam at the beginning of when we start covering that material. So week 7 is when we start the classical period. Once we get to the classical period, we spend more time because there's a lot more to talk about. So we spend 3 weeks on the classical period. Then we get into the romantic period, and there's a lot to talk about with romantic music. So we spend 3 weeks on that, and then 2 weeks on 20th century, and then you'll have your final exam. So again, your module section is going to have all of the information that you need. You don't have to go looking for quizzes or assignments or exams. Everything is going to be under the module that corresponds with the week that we're at, and all of that corresponds with your calendar and your syllabus. Grades, like I said, grades will be posted once we get to that point. This looks a little bit different because it's your review. Discussions, I may add some discussions as we go along. So there's introductions, which I again put under the module and ask a question. I may just hide this icon so that you don't have to worry about that. And then people has the people that are in the class in your particular section of the class. So, tried to do it as fast as I could. For the online people, this is the only touching base that you're going to get with me personally, other than my emails and everything. For the face-to-face people, we'll touch on this a little bit more in depth in your first class to make sure everything's set, and then we'll go on from there. I hope that you all have a great Labor Day weekend, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all. And if you're watching this in a different semester, I hope you have a great weekend preceding your semester, and I will see you in a week or so. Bye-bye.